to the panel on what can I do with a psych major. My name is Lydia Ricard, and I'm a career assistant at the Career Resource Center, and thank you for joining us. Tonight's format will involve our panel members taking a few minutes to introduce themselves, and then we will open it up to questions from all of you. We will have the session go on until approximately 8 p.m., and then we will provide an opportunity for you to stay and talk with grads eventually if you would like. Please take time to complete your evaluation at the end of the panel. Now I'd like to turn it over to the panel for introductions. Jackie?
Hello. Okay, I wanted to make sure this wasn't going to be crazy loud. I'm Jackie Stockinger. I was a psych major management minor, and I graduated in '04. I really kind of randomly fell into psych. I had a psych class my first semester, first year, and I loved it, loved my prof, so I just kind of stuck with it because it seemed right and interesting. Since I graduated, I knew I didn't want to go into sales, but that's about the extent of what I knew about what I wanted to do. So I started working at Wolters Kluwer Financial Services in St. Cloud, just because I happened to find a job there, and I was from this area, so it worked for me. Jumped through a couple different positions there where first I was working in their legal and compliance services area, went over to professional services, and now luckily a year and a half ago I found a job working in operations at a company called W3I in Sartell, and we distribute mobile and desktop computer applications for companies who create them. So now I'm team lead there. Has nothing to do with psychology, but it's super interesting every single day.
Hi, I'm Tim Jansen. I graduated in 2010, and psych was always of interest to me, but I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And afterwards, grad school wasn't really something I was looking into at the time. It's still an option, but I wanted to explore the nonprofit world. So I discovered a few organizations that were supporting individuals with developmental disabilities at our private college's job fair, and found my niche with Hammer Residences, an organization of about 500 employees in the west suburbs of Minneapolis. And I started there as an assistant manager at one site, and continued on and now oversee 8 of their sites and provide other supervisory experience, and pretty thankful I'd get to apply some skills I learned throughout my major.
Hi, I'm Kate. I also graduated in 2010. I decided I wanted to be a psych major my freshman year just because I've always liked psychology. I find it so interesting, but I had no idea what I wanted to do with it. And then my sophomore year, my dad, who's a physical therapist assistant, told me about, he's like, oh, you'd be a really good speech-language pathologist, and I had no idea what that was. So I went and shadowed an SLP at North Memorial Hospital and just completely fell in love. What a speech-language pathologist does is works with individuals with communication disorders. So throughout the lifespan, anywhere from helping a little kiddo with articulation, with sounds, to helping an older adult with swallowing issues or cognitive issues. So there's a wide range of things you can do as an SLP, and a wide range of settings you can work in also. And my psych background has helped me tremendously throughout grad school, and then I'm sure it will too when I start working. I have a year left, and then I'll start working wherever I decide to work, and I have no idea yet. So.
I'll go here. Good evening. My name's Jason Miller. I think I'm probably the old man of the group. I graduated 2002. Our 10-year reunion is this weekend. I had two very different tracks in life. Obviously went to school here with a psych major, and actually knew that from high school on that I was going to be a psych major. So I was one of the few, I think, that came in from high school knowing what my major was going to be and stuck through it throughout. Finished here in 3.5 years just because, again, from the very beginning I knew exactly what I wanted to do. At the same time, I just happened, because I was from here, I had a sales job in high school. I had another sales job in college, that kind of while I was going to school here, after I graduated here, I still thought that I was going to work in the psychology field, very specifically in the school system. So I went on to graduate school at St. Cloud State, did finish my master's and have a master's in counseling psychology, was a licensed guidance counselor, and after 4 years of college and 2 years of grad school, decided I don't want to do that. So I continued on with my sales career in a couple of different management fields, and after working in sales almost 10 years for other people, in 2005 it was time to start to go work for myself. So I went to work for Premier Real Estate Services and founded Jason Miller Homes. I work in real estate sales and leasing, and I'm also a real estate educator. So I educate new real estate licensees, people who are interested in the field of real estate, and I also educate first-time home buyers. So people who are almost done with the process of buying their first house, or people who haven't even started the process. So in that regard, I do get to use the psych background and the education background that I obtained both here and at St. Cloud State. When I tell people I have a psych degree and a master's in psych, I usually get an eyebrow raise when they look at me and I'm a real estate agent, because the requirements to be a real estate agent are 30 days of real estate school and pass one test. So I am highly overeducated real estate agent. But when you think about it, in the world of real estate, the people I work with on a daily basis are people who have gone through some of life's biggest changes or events. Happy ones like births or weddings, where new homes are being bought. Sad ones like death or divorce, where there's maybe a home to sell. So I use that background in training and education every single day, just maybe in a non-formal setting.
Okay, that's better. My name's Kelly, and I graduated in 2011, so I think I'm the youngest one here. And right after I graduated, I was dead set on going right into grad school and getting a master's in occupational therapy, which is kind of similar to physical therapy, for those of you who don't know. And I took a job, took the year off to gain experience, and I took a job in a group home, and it was a great experience. I just kind of realized direct patient care wasn't really my thing. I was got a little too emotionally involved, and it just wasn't really something I wanted to make a career out of. So I went back on the job hunt, and I thought I would try my wits at the business world. So I made some connections at corporations throughout the Twin Cities, and I ended up getting a job as a product analyst for United Health Group. And it's kind of a long breakdown of where I actually work within that corporation. There's the United Healthcare side, which is the insurance aspect of the company, and then there's the Optum, which is health services, which is right up my alley. I love working in the business and kind of behind the scenes of healthcare, and specifically my business is, we're a hearing aid dispensing company for people that have certain health plans. They can get these high quality hearing devices for a benefit price, and so I have found that I can use what I know clinically of psychology and kind of mental health to help the patients and clients we work with kind of adjust to reteaching their brain and what kind of happens in terms of social isolation with hearing loss, and how that affects depression and anxiety and things like that. And it's also I found it to be very helpful in the business setting, and taking on leadership and management roles, kind of learning how to deal with certain people and how to deal in group settings socially. So it's been, I think, very beneficial to what I'm doing now, and I hope it can take me higher up where I am, and we'll see what happens.
My name is Dr. Ryan Engdahl. I graduated from St. John's in 2006 with a psychology degree. I was sort of like Jason and had an idea about what I wanted to do when I came into school. Immediately following graduation, I went to the University of South Dakota and got a master's degree and a PhD in clinical psychology. Today I work for the St. Cloud Hospital, the Centricare Health System, which is based out of St. Cloud. If you're from around here or have been to a clinic or a hospital, there's one in St. Joe over here. The course of my training and education, of course, I apply things that I learned in my major every day, sort of all day. But the way it worked for me is that after the 4 years of undergraduate here, the University of South Dakota's program is a 4-year program and then a 1-year residency. So I graduated in 2006 and I started work full-time in August of 2011. So I've been working full-time for about a year now. I have a specialization in disaster mental health along with clinical psychology, so I am involved with the Red Cross and We respond to things like hurricanes or tornadoes or home fires or things like that, where mental health is important in providing services to both survivors of an event like that or the first responders and people involved in cleanup or recovery or rescue types of things like that. So it's a little bit different. It's a community-based psychology type of specialization, but it's less than typical sort of psychology practice than what you read about and you learn about in your clinical class. So it's a different facet, and it's just an example of the different things that we can do. It's not typical psychology, so.
Loud. I'm Malia Match, and I graduated in 2006. I was a psych major, poli-sci minor, and thought I was going pre-law for the first 3 years of college, and got to be a senior and realized I really didn't want to go into law after taking the LSATs, and decided to just explore some other psych programs and courses, and took a course in Intro to IO Psychology. And really liked that it was applied psychology to the workplace and the business world, and just said, why not get my master's? I'm not ready to really go down the path of a career. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, but studying industrial psychology a little bit further sounded really appealing to me, and just getting to understand that world of how can you apply understanding behavior in the workplace and helping organizations become more efficient with their employees. So I went down that path, got my master's in IO, and right now I'm working for a company in St. Paul. It's a sales organization, Patterson Companies. We sell dental supplies, medical rehab, and veterinary supplies as well, but I work on their HR team, so I do everything that ranges from helping hire and select the right people into the organization, conducting surveys for the company, finding out how we can help increase engagement within our employee base, as well as do training and development activities as well. So I get to do a variety of different things in my job and pull from that psych background. So that's me. And with that, I think we'll open up to Q&A. So if anybody has questions, feel free to ask, and either one of us, and we'll try to respond to your questions in sort of an open format.
I'll repeat the question since we were asked to do that. The question was, for those of us who went to grad school, what did we do to prepare for it? I went to it, and it seems like a lifetime ago. I was talking to Ryan beforehand because we actually went to the same high school, and I'm old enough that I coached his wife her senior year of high school in track at Cathedral in St. Cloud. So I graduated in 3.5, so I spent that spring semester studying for all the tests and everything, did my testing and everything, and was still kind of on the fence of where I was going to go, exactly what I was going to do. So I took a little bit different path because I had some free time outside of classroom while I was still trying to complete a degree here to study and prepare and go to St. Cloud State. So really my spring semester, having graduated early, my entire focus was just getting ready for grad school.
Yeah, I think a good thing to do is become involved with faculty and professors and making some relationships there, as far as preparation for sort of getting ready for grad school and what to expect. With psychology, I think, many schools produce a psychology major, but finding ways to sort of set yourself apart and becoming involved, if professors are doing research and you can get involved at a level of helping with data collection or being a data entry grunt, which is where sort of a lot of people start, is just to get involved in that way. When it comes to deciding what you want to do or how you want to do it or where you want to go to school, I think the internet is a super friendly source these days. You can figure out what schools have to offer. I think if you do a lot of reading within psychology and finding some journal articles that sort of interest you, you can look up the citations and figure out who the authors are, and you can find out where they are. And then you can go and look up what they're doing. Most people who do publications and are active in psychology will have a research base and they'll have a research team, and you can sort of figure out what's happening at those different schools and if it's something that you want to do to pursue or to work with that person. As far as logistically, I think with psychology and graduate school, everyone has to take the GRE. It's one of those unfortunate things that we all have to go through and don't enjoy doing. But I think the advice I was given was to give yourself enough time so that you can take it early. And I took it before my senior year, the summer before, so that I would be able to take it and then maybe take it again if I wanted to, if it didn't go as well as I wanted it to. And that worked out because I wasn't super anxious in the studying, knowing that there might be another chance. And the other part of the GRE for some psychology grad schools is that they require the Gre Subject Test, which is a separate GRE test that's based on psychology stuff. So just sort of preparing, and if you can sort of map out what to expect down the road, helps as you come across that stuff so there's not a lot of surprises along the way.
One other thing too that I think really helped me get into graduate school was just get experience outside the classroom. So volunteer areas that you that are of interest to whatever you're applying for graduate school, and really try to differentiate yourself that way, because everyone else is going to have, you know, the GPA or anything else, but those experiences are really what sets you apart. So like for me, I volunteered at the St. Cloud Hospital, and that gave me a great experience, and it also allows you to figure out what type of people you like working with. And just also utilizing your resources here on campus. The Career Center is an awesome place to go, not only to help with resumes, but they have databases of names of alumni. So if you're interested in some program, you can look up individuals who have done what you want to do and maybe call them and get information from them. So just use your resources while you're here.
I think just one other thing to add too, in terms of finding the right grad school, it was kind of tough for me to look into that because I really didn't know what I wanted to do until my senior year. So I was kind of scrambling to figure out, do I apply to a grad school now? Do I find a job, you know, wait a year and go to grad school a year later? And so what I did is I reached out to students that were in grad school already, and just working through networks, the alumni networks here, just contacting the schools I was looking at themselves, and I found that a lot of those schools connected you directly with the students in those programs, and actually visited a couple schools, got to spend a day listening into lectures and classes, and actually understanding, you know, what you were going to learn in some of those programs. So I thought that was a really helpful way for me to figure out whether or not I wanted to go down that path of grad school, and which grad school I was going to eventually choose. So that's something that you can do, and these days with LinkedIn and all the social media networks out there, you may not even have to physically go to a school. You can connect with some of those people online and learn some of those things that way too. So.
No one?
One of the things that I brought up the last time I was here was that it's important to be able to get yourself going a little bit and being really proactive for yourself. I don't know, you know, a professor might advertise a little bit that they're looking for some help with a project, that, you know, they need some people to help out with whatever they're working on. But I think if you can, you know, sort of muster the energy to walk up and say, hey, I'm sort of interested in doing some of this for my career, can I get involved? I know when I was here, Roger Narlock was working on some research projects, and so was Richard Wilkowitz, and I think Steve Stelzner was. I think they're still here, but I had approached Roger Narlock in my first year and said, hey, I want to get involved. And I got like a really crappy job of like reading through hundreds of pages of information and trying to code it, but that's really what got me interested and got me started and got me involved, and sort of helped to paint a picture of what it might really be like to do some of the research side of things.
First, we're going to do that. So I just want to say ditto to that. Like, be proactive. Think about what it is you actually want to do or what you might be interested, even if it's just to like shorten the list. Because I found, like, once I graduated from college, like, in college it's easy. You say, okay, it's not easy, sorry. But if you pick your major, I mean, everything's laid out for you. Like, okay, do all these things and you're going to graduate. And if you study really hard, you're going to get a good grade and all of this. But once you really get in, especially in the business world, I find, not that I have experience in anything else, but nobody's going to tell you what you need to do to be successful at your job or how to find a job that's going to be right for you. So you really should just be thinking about, like, what am I really interested in? How can I be proactive? How can I get involved in the right things, or ask questions, or take on new projects, or get involved with different people? So for me, that was kind of an eye-opener. It took me a while to realize that I'm responsible for figuring it out for myself now. So that's my 2 cents.
For those of you that got, well, you obviously all got psychology now, but the job you have now, if it doesn't relate to psychology, do you think just the importance of coming here was like important in getting your job that you have now if it doesn't have to do with psychology, just like the major itself, not just the major of psychology? If that makes sense.
Do you mean just like having a degree from this place in general?
Yeah.
I would say maybe for those of us that don't have positions directly related to psychology, I think a lot of the times where you're coming from does sometimes get your foot in the door, like, oh, alum networks from this place are everywhere, and it kind of goes back to what everyone's been saying, is just, throw yourself out there, see who you can connect with, and maybe that person will know somebody that, oh, like this person went to St. Ben's and St. John's with a psych degree, like, does your company have any openings that might be good for them? Or this, it's just a lot of, I don't really know, help me out. Like, I do think that where you're coming from is going to help you ultimately with what you want to do. It's just, you do have to stay focused on at least having a general goal on where you want to get yourself and being proactive in that aspect and thinking, okay, maybe when I was a first year, I'm not doing what I thought I always wanted to do when I was that first year, but oh my gosh, I can't talk.
Maybe we could talk about how can we deal with the stereotypes that we have about psychology versus what skill sets you actually are developing by the study of psychology. Like a walking stick.
I like that idea, and clearly I'm struggling to spit out a sentence. So.
Well, I think Jason brought up a really good point. It's like he's a very overeducated realtor, but he probably does a really good job at dealing with people, because that's what we learn in. I'm thinking back to like my clinical and counseling class, or any of the social stuff. We learn about behavior and how and why people sort of do things, and I imagine that every one of us up here deals with people every day, all day. Exactly. Yeah. So what motivates people, and why do people make decisions, and how can we help people to go through things or process things, or how can we best manage this other group of people? And I think that's one thing that a psychology major has over some others, is that we can relate and we can understand. And I think psychologists or people with psychology backgrounds are really good leaders. So when it comes to organizations or groups or whatever.
I agree wholeheartedly in the leadership aspect. I think a lot of people, the people that I've interacted with both here and both at my job, everyone that, my boss actually has a degree in psychology, and she's almost VP level and manager at a big company, and she is one of the best leaders I've ever seen, and she's great to learn from. And so in that aspect, I think you get a really different sort of, like you said, skill set on how to deal with people in a lot of different settings of life, whether it's socially, at work, and anywhere else. So.
And speaking to your question, Mary, the psychology stereotype is probably go to school. As I mentioned to the career assistants there, and a number of the panelists are fine examples of that too. Having not yet jumped back into school myself, I see it being applied not just psychology-wise, but our well-rounded education here, and some of the resources outside of the classroom, I think. I worked in the Career Center, so maybe that's a stereotype, but I found out that just that networking and finding a passion, maybe you'll start something that you don't really love, and now, as you demonstrated, you're in a job that you do find a passion for, and it may not be psychology, but all the resources and classes here open doors that you probably wouldn't imagine right now.
And I'll touch on that because I'm probably one of those that's the farthest away from a psychology degree in terms of every day. And like I said, every single day when I meet new people and they're asking my background or where I came from, two things in that regard. The first of all, the St. John, St. Ben's thing carries a lot of weight in this community and kind of wherever you go. It's a highly respected school. Use that to your advantage. It's a huge, huge network of people. So it doesn't matter where I run into people in daily professional or personal life. If they know you have the background, there's automatically that implied level of respect just from coming from this school, first of all. But then in terms of the psychology degree, we could sit here for hours and you could list any type of job, occupation, career out there, and I will tell you a way that you will use that psychology degree in that job. I don't care if you're even staring at a computer screen all day. Behind you, likely somewhere, is someone that you're going to be working with, either a supervisor, management of some type, a client, a customer. Every single day, you just need to know how to work with people in any type of environment in what I would call the real world once you leave here. I deal with different personalities every single day. Like I'd mentioned, I deal with people going through major life transitions, either positive or negative. And I have people on the phone yelling at me, screaming at me, crying at me. The undergrad helped me certainly, but even beyond that, my grad school training, if you will, in terms of guidance counseling and working with students who had gone through horrific life events, and having specific training where you're told you cannot show any expression on your face. I use that all the time. I use some of those skill sets that they taught us, both here and at grad school, that people are going to tell you that I was a high-level executive and I just lost my job and now I'm going through bankruptcy, and you can't go, oh my gosh. You can't have that expression on your face, otherwise you're going to lose those people. So again, regardless of what, this is one of those degrees that it does not matter what you do when you leave here. You will use it in your professional life and in your personal life. As an aside, as the elder statesman of the panel here, if I can give you a tip, both professionally and personally, I think the biggest thing, at least professionally speaking for my career, that has really just kind of helped me on all facets is the networking piece. And I'm not talking about social networking. I'm not just talking about Facebook and things like that. So if I can give you just one tip to walk away with, is put away your phone when you get out into the real world. Make real person-to-person, face-to-face connections with people. Shake their hand, look them in the eye. I think society has flipped a little bit. It's just gotten so easy to, before I got into real estate, I worked in retail and I was getting people calling in sick via text message. And that, at least for me, that didn't fly. So put down your phone and get in front of people, because nowadays it's actually so abnormal, I think. We've just gotten to that society where impersonal communication is the way of communicating now via text or Facebook or tweet or whatever it might be. Pick up the phone and call someone and meet them face to face, write a handwritten letter, something like that. If you want to set yourself apart, it's the simplest little things that nobody does anymore that will immediately set you apart.
Thank you for saying that.
I'm not that old either. I'm 32 years old. I am on Twitter. I am on Facebook. I am on LinkedIn. I do have a YouTube channel. I use all of those things every single day, but it's one of those things we just absolutely can't rely on it. So, and I did, like I said, I coached track at Cathedral, and I'll never ever forget it because it happened at St. John's. It's the section meet to go to the state championships, and I had an athlete walking up to the starting line, and he was texting his girlfriend like 100 feet away, how nervous he was. That was the end of it for me with phones, so put them down.
I'm just going to ditto the comment that you can use psychology no matter what you go into. I think like doing a psych major management minor is pretty common, and that's how I was set up. And I really debated for a while whether I should have been a management major psych minor. I was really worried about that, and I am so glad that I stuck with psych as a major. Because what I found is that there are so many, once you get into the professional world, you can find a mentor. You're going to have people teaching you there. You can go to professional trainings and learn some of the additional skills you need once you actually get in and start doing some actual management activities. But the skills you learn in dealing with people, in being a leader, in communications, and some of the writing that you do in psych, those are the things that you can't go to a one-day training and learn those things. So I think the psych major was just a great way to go for me.
And I think it really sets you apart being a kind of recent interviewer for jobs. Most of the people I interviewed with, when they read my resume and read that I graduated from here with a psych major, but I was applying for a job in the business world, that intrigued them even more to be like, so why this, and what did you learn as a psychology major that is drawing you to this position specifically? And more often than not, I got the second interview and obviously a job because I think it was so intriguing. They didn't just get another business major that wants to do this. They got somebody very different that has something different that they can bring to the table. So I thought it was very interesting. I was very nervous before a lot of them. So, but yeah, I'm very, very glad that I stuck with psych as the major and not the not that minors are bad, but it sets you apart from a lot of other people that if you're going into that type of role or that's what you're interested in, I think it really will.
And how you portray
Right.
major, if you say, I just had a psych.
Right, no,
yourself about
right.
that major, that's not going to look good to the employer. So are you supportive of your decision?
Right.
Did you have a passion for that topic?
Yeah, that's super, super important.
And do you get in every interview, when you say you're a psych major, they're like, why are you psychoanalyzing me now?
Yeah, yeah,
And you kind of go, well, no, but I mean, a little bit, yeah. Every single day, everything you're doing, you are psychoanalyzing people, so.
What's one of the biggest challenges that each of you have had in your jobs?
I'll take it. Anyone who's read the Wall Street Journal, the St. Cloud Times, watched the news, CNN, I got into real estate, like I said, in 2005. And if the real estate market is a bubble, the bubble exploded probably the day after I got my license. So it was one of those things that, and we actually back then, we knew it was coming. It was one of those things that homes were being sold at such an incredible pace and values were going up at such an incredible rate that we knew and I knew and everyone told me, why are you getting into that field? This is going to stop eventually. There's always going to be someone that you're going to be able to work with. There's always a market. Unfortunately for those sellers whose home values weren't what they were, what that meant, it was an incredible opportunity for home buyers, which worked out really well for me because most home buyers were first-time home buyers. Most first-time home buyers were my peer group, so it was a natural connection for me. So there's always something to be done. So that's been the obvious challenge. Maybe aside from that, maybe an everyday challenge for me is there's 500 people in St. Cloud who do what I do. So again, it's one of those things, regardless of what you go into, if you go into the field of education and you're applying for teaching jobs, there's going to be hundreds of people with similar degrees or similar backgrounds or whatever it might be. So it's those little tiny things that everyone has talked about that's going to set yourself apart. The way I looked at it as a person who has gone through education, who's been an employee, who's been an employer, and now I'm self-employed and own a couple of businesses. The one thing I can tell you is have your strong educational background. I think it's terribly important, obviously, grades and the whole bit and everything else, but don't be in the bubble of just your school life, especially while you're here. I think real life experiences are as important, if not more important, than the grades on the paper. So when people are interviewing you, they're going to look at things like your interpersonal skills and how you're communicating with them, how you're portraying yourself, how you're making eye contact, and what you did while you were going to school. Were you just a person who was in the books? I even look at it, I compare it to like athletics, for example. Were you an athlete who just played volleyball and that's all you did? Or were you, I was the type of person in our high school maybe allowed that and facilitated that going to a little bit of a smaller school. I could be involved in multiple sports and music and theater and student senate. So I think as much as you can get involved in a variety of different things, you're at such an awesome age and chapter of your life right now where really the sky's the limit. And try something, and if you don't like it, you know what, who cares? Try something else. And if that doesn't work, try something else. So some of my very best friends switched their major in undergrad 5 and 6 times until they stumbled upon what they absolutely love doing. So don't be afraid to try something.
Well, currently I'm not working because I'm in grad school, but what I've heard from SLPs in the field is that paperwork is the number one thing that is the hardest part of their job, or just the most difficult. It just takes up a lot of time that you'd rather be spending working with clients, but it's a necessary evil because it's how we get paid, it's how we document progress of our clients, and so with every job you have, it's the pros and the cons, so you just kind of take it all.
I would say right now the biggest challenge for me is also one of the things that I really enjoy about my job. Like I mentioned before, I get to do a lot of different things on a daily basis. I work on projects around hiring and selection. So, for example, over the last couple of years, my organization has built assessments to bring on new sales reps for our company. So we actually put people through different tests to vet them out to fill those positions, along with interviews and other processes. But then over the next couple weeks, I'm going to be actually out of town training and actually getting in front of people, talking about management skills and visiting some of our different locations throughout the country doing that. And then I'll come back and work on some software that we're using to enhance some of our online training services. So I get to do a really wide range of things within my job, which you can find in a lot of positions, but then also there are those areas where you might get stuck, doing data analysis every day for the first 2 years of your career if you work for a lot larger organization like a Target or Best Buy, and you kind of start from the bottom and work your way up. So when it comes to kind of deciding upon a career where you want to start, considering some of those things, are you the kind of person that could, deal with that the first couple years and kind of work through bigger teams that are so focused on one thing versus a more generalist position like the one I have that, you're on a lot of different projects, you get a lot of variety, but then it also seems like at times you're not getting anything done because you're spread so thin on so many different things. So for me, that was one thing that I knew I didn't want to do the same thing day after day for a couple years, and I'd rather jump into something where I could get that different experience, work with different people within the organization, work on different projects. And I think that's another thing too that going to St. Ben's and getting a liberal arts career has helped with, because you do have so many different skill sets and you learn so many different things through that education. You can apply it to not just crunching numbers, but a number of different avenues and really broaden and grow different skill sets. And from there too, I think if you find that there's one area that you really want to focus on, you can always change that career. But jumping in for me and having many of those different experiences, I got to explore. Maybe I decided I didn't like training, I could go and do something else. But at least I had that opportunity to try that out within the first couple years. So
I'll say for me, now that I'm managing people is my biggest challenge. So, and I guess the biggest challenge for me is coaching. So I have, like, one of my teammates or team members right now is really struggling on some skill areas, and just using that psych background again comes into huge play here, because I'm having to coach her and give her feedback that she's not doing very well, and just trying to figure out what I can do to try and help her do better on those things and make sure that she can be successful in her job. While some of it's maybe not the hardest thing to coach on, it's just very stressful in dealing with conflict and giving that kind of feedback to people. So psych definitely comes into play.
I can think of a number of really challenging things for my job, and one of them is dealing with insurance companies. It's being really difficult. No, but I think as far as like the typical sort of grad school psychologist process, I think the process is really the most challenging thing. Like I said, I graduated in 2006, and I've now been working for a year. It really takes someone who's committed to start this and follow it through. And there's like time along the way when you're like, what am I doing to myself? We graduate and your friends are out buying new cars and they're fancy townhomes and houses, and they're doing their thing, and then here we are still in the studio, going to school and doing homework and writing papers and stuff. But it takes the energy to see that through and to pick something that really matters, so that you can see that through. And to be honest, the job is really emotionally draining. We meet a lot of people and we do a lot of things, but it's also so very, very rewarding at the end of the day. So there's this balance between, a lot of really tough work, but it's really worth it at the end. And so, like I said before, if you can be self-starting and find something that you value and that's important to you, it's really worth it at the end of the day. If you choose the school route, there's always an end in sight, and a lot of people have done it before you. So.
Question, it's because I didn't become a psych major until my junior year. I'm a senior, and we said try to get involved as much as you can. As someone who's somewhat at the end of their career, I don't know what opportunities I guess I should, someone I think should go for in their final year and possibly outside.
I actually also changed to psych my junior year, so I was a minor all along and switched my senior year, or junior year, and you're getting out in 4 years still? Good deal. I tried to get involved in as many clubs as I could, but don't overdo it, because what did I do? I did run for Senate, and I was on that first semester. So any sort of leadership role that you can really get involved in, that, whether it be, I'm trying to think of clubs off the top of my hand that you can get involved in around here that would really portray you as a good leader, well, assuming you are a good leader, which I'm sure you are, but any sort of role that you can, be that resource for somebody else and, show that you have good skills in being, I don't want to keep using the word leader, but does that make anything that can, build your set in dealing with and manage skill set in dealing with people and interacting with them? I think that's really going to make it seem like you really put that effort forward and finding something that's really going to, if I could think of something that you could get involved in, I could maybe use that as a better example, but can anybody else think?
I can.
Yeah.
If it's psychology related, I can sort of relate. In my last year, I tried to take the least amount of classes as I could because I was ready to be finished, and so I took like 2, but I found out that I was going to lose all my financial aid because I didn't have enough credits, so I went into a little bit of a freak out mode and just emailed some professors, and I think Pam Bacon was working on some stuff, and I said, hey, I need to be involved in something that's going to help me get some credit and show that I'm actually still here, and I was able to come in on a project they were working on already and just sort of slide in and help out. So there's definitely time, even if it's a couple months or 1 year or half a year, just reach out to people and say, hey, here's what's happening, and I need to get involved.
And don't let the fact that you flipped your major, quote unquote, later on deter you from anything coming from a non-psychology employment field right now. I guess the simple, easy answer I would give you in terms of what can I do, truth be told, in my opinion, it doesn't matter. What do you love doing, and do it. For example, if you love baseball, go coach Little League Baseball. If you like working with kids, go be a big brother. Work experiences are fantastic, volunteer experiences. To me, it doesn't matter. I think, again, having different experiences and being able to put something on your resume when they're looking at 100 different job applications, and whatever you have is different and jumps off the page at them and makes them question, why did you do this? How did you do this? How did you get here? Something that gets a conversation going. Again, it's that one thing in my daily life now that I have to be that one of 500 that sets myself apart. Just start doing things, productive things, obviously, and things that you enjoy doing, and just trying things out that you can add. If it's work-related, fantastic. If it's education-based and on campus, there's just, being a liberal arts college, there's so many different things you can get involved with here. It doesn't matter how late into it you are. I think just find something and just start seeking out information. This being such a networking and technology day and age, for example, just before I left here today, I don't know if anyone saw it, there was a huge bill of smoke coming from that direction. If you can see it from here in St. Cloud, literally I put on Facebook before I left my house, what's the big ball of smoke in St. Cloud? By the time I got out here and checked my phone, there was like 13 replies, exactly what it was, what happened, where it was at, what time, and things like that. So that's a good example of where you can use technology to your advantage. Put something on Facebook and say, hey, I like whatever it might be. Anyone have any suggestions for things I could get involved in? And I guarantee you'd have answers very, very quickly.
And with some of Jason's examples of volunteering or internships, if you can find something that you can carry on after you graduate, that'll play to your strengths probably quite a bit, in the fact that it may lead to employment, it may lead to your best reference for grad school. It may be both. You may continue on with volunteering or an internship well into an employment career before you really realize what you want to do. And for someone who transitioned late, maybe it's going to take some time to realize, well, here's what I finally decided to do with that, and you might be out for 2 or 3 years. So if you can carry on something that will play to your strengths, I think that will be a huge benefit down the line.
Maybe for those of us who aren't decided on a psych major yet, maybe you could talk a little bit about how you decided to choose a psych major. Maybe what kind of thoughts went into the process, how you kind of got to psych.
I don't know.
Because it's awesome.
Well, I guess I was a biology major before I changed, and I thought to myself, you know, if I ever did change my mind on going back to grad school for something science-related, would I want to begin a career using a major/skill set in the natural sciences or get a job in the biology field? No, I'm more interested in working with people, working on a team, working in a role I'm in now. The psychology major and just subject in general just really applied more to what I thought I would maybe want to do in case my initial plan didn't work out. And so that's what really, if that makes sense, I thought, you know, I don't really want to work in a lab. I don't want to work, and not that biology is restrictive by any means, because it's not, but to me, I thought, you know, I think I work a lot better with people, and like I said, I think I'd like to get into, you know, management, and the skill set you learn with a psych major, I thought would just apply a lot on a broader scale to what I would maybe want to do if I were to have changed my mind.
I would say people is, I think we all work with people, everyone here, as we spoke to already, and I'm guessing a lot of you are very involved with peers or other people on campus. Coming into it, I'll give a personal example. I came in as an accounting and psychology major, knowing I'd have to choose, and it took all of a month to decide that it was the people portion of it. So for me, it was just that interaction, and even if you are more clinically focused, chances are you are researching something that's going to impact other people's lives. So in some way, you're touching other individuals.
I agree with Tim. For me, I had always been interested in psych. I just like to, even in high school and whatnot, I would do self-assessments or little quizzes to learn about yourself or anything like that. So I knew I was maybe interested in psych, but I really did come in kind of having the attitude, what am I possibly going to do with a psych major? This is silly. So I kind of was trying to rule it out for myself. And then when I started taking the classes once I got here, I just fell in love with it, and it was easy for me. And I figured, okay, I'm going to a great school. I'm going to be able to find a job doing something, and I don't know what I want to do anyway, so who cares? It'll be fine. Luckily, it worked out. Where was I going with that? That was a rambling sentence. Landing on the major. People. Thank you. People. People are completely my passion, and I think, that's what psych's all about, is working with people. And I got hugely frustrated in the last job I was in because I found that it was very, very corporate, and some big corporations are not very corporate, but this one was. And it was very corporate and all about processes and all about revenue and making money and whatever, and it wasn't about the people anymore. And I found that I was just angry all the time because I wasn't getting to use what I loved, which was that psych background. I wasn't able to focus on people and what was best for them. So people is what it's all about.
Having a background in psychology, do you think you have an advantage in the interview process going into jobs beforehand, just kind of having that background of how kind of people are, the study of, how psychology is, how we are, and kind of just feeling more comfortable, I guess, in the interview process going into it, having a better idea how to interact with people, I guess?
Yes. I think if you talk about effective communication, reflective listening, all the types of things you may come across in any of the psychology classes, you just come out a better communicator. If it's in an interview or asking questions or approaching a boss or having someone ask you a question, I absolutely believe so.
And I think stereotypically or not, I think psych majors and people with our personality set tend to be a little bit more inquisitive maybe than the rest of the population or the general population. And I think that's a tip you could take in with you to an interview process, is go into it with a specific predetermined set of questions. You'll blow them away in terms of when they give you questions, more than just a yes or no question, a yes or no response, you'll already put yourself ahead of probably half the group. And then if you have either follow-up questions or just general questions that show you were seriously committed to the process and you came into this with some thought behind it. You know, I want to interview you as my employer and make sure I'm the right fit for you as much as you want to decide that you're the right fit, that I'm the right fit for your company. So it's one of those things where it's a dual interview. And my career path has kind of led that down that track too as a real estate agent. When you're a real estate agent, you actually go out and interview the company that you're going to work for, and you choose the company that you're going to hang your hat or hang your license on. So it's a little bit flipped in that regard. But like I said before, I've been an employee and I've been an employer, and it's one of those things that for me personally, and maybe it was my psych background behind it, I was confident within 5 minutes I knew whether that person sitting across from me was a potential fit. Potential, it would take a little longer to know for certain, or they were absolutely out. And a lot of the things that determined if they were absolutely out were what they were wearing when they walked in, the eye contact they made, whether they shook my hand, if I could understand what they were saying, if I could hear them. It's all of those nonverbal things in addition to the answers that you give that are going to make a tremendous difference. And I think the psych background part of it, in addition to the interpersonal relations side of it, if you can combine those things, get some speech experience. Who would have thought that, you know, the drama stuff that I did in high school and public speaking and things like that would parlay into a field like this and becoming an educator in terms of real estate. It's 10 years from now, you'll look back and all these little things you did that you had no idea would actually get you to where you're at, all of them played a role in the process. So yes was the correct answer.
I love that you just used the word parlay, by the way. That's nice. Yes is the right answer. And I don't know, maybe it's a psych major thing. Now I'm totally curious. I love interviews. Like, I love going into them. You get to sit and ask questions and learn things about people and about the company. And I agree, it's totally a dual interview. And now that I'm doing hiring for people, if someone comes into an interview and doesn't have any questions for me, I will not hire them. There's just, you're out. I'm done. So have questions when you go interview at places.
Yeah, just speaking from the perspective of being on an HR team and actually helping out with the selection process for my organization, interviews are getting to be very complex. There's a lot of science that goes behind the interview process. I don't know if any of you have gone through a process where you've actually had to go online, you know, take a test or submit some sort of information and do all of that pre-work before you actually even get asked into an interview. But one of the things that I found helpful, and I've gone back to the event that gets put on by St. Ben's and St. John's every spring before the big career fair. They do a night where you can actually mingle with alumni and talk to people about their positions, what they do now, but then also have the opportunity to just interact with people. And I found that's really helpful for a lot of students because they've never been in an interview situation before. So it's kind of that opportunity for them to talk to someone that they can feel a little bit more comfortable with, having that alumni connection, just finding out more about the different jobs that are open, maybe at the companies that we work for, or whoever is represented at that event. But I think it gives those students a chance to kind of in a more relaxed atmosphere practice some of those interview skills and get up to speed, because that's one of the things that they get prepped for. If you've heard of this event, people dress up. It's kind of a more formal thing. They come in and you come with a set of questions for the alumni that come back and represent their organization. So for me, I went through that going as a senior and then have come back several years to participate in that event because I found it really helpful. And a lot of the students will collect business cards and contact folks and ask them questions and get help if they're going to go interview for a job at the company that maybe we would work for or for a similar organization. Again, that alumni network is really strong, and just reaching out to those people for advice I think is really helpful and puts you at a really big advantage in terms of the interview process and connecting with people. So.
There's another event, Career Expo, coming up on November 7th that has a networking session with alums and a career fair and seminars. So that's kind of a pre to the networking session in February. Any last bits of advice? You know, you think back, things you wish you would have known?
I would say ask questions, get in touch with alumni, get in touch with the people on the panel. You can always get a hold of Career Services to track some of us down. I'm open for that, and I'm going to volunteer everybody else as well. But gather information, because there's nothing worse than not knowing about what's next when some of that's out there and it's feasible to track it down, and use the resources that you have here.
Yeah, I second that, and really just to try to get as much experience as you can in a variety of settings. It's not just about the classroom, it's about the experience you have in college. You only get to go once, and so just live it up while you can and really take it all in while you can.
I think while in school, it's very easy to just be in this bubble that is this campus or St. John's campus or a combination of the two. Get out of here for an afternoon, go into St. Cloud, go to Minneapolis, do whatever. If you've got even an inkling of something you might want to do or try, start meeting people. I'm telling you, if you go to any type of executive in any company, and if you just phone call, meet them in person, ask for a connection to someone, they're going to be so blown away by the fact that someone your age has done that because nobody else is doing that, that you've already made the first giant leap. So I'm in an industry or just in the business world in general where I've got to fail a million times to have one success. So don't be afraid to fail. Expect failure. Look back and learn from it every single time. And we've got to fail a bunch of times and put the fear away. Check the fear at the door and just know one of those things that we've just got to fall on our face in order to get back and up and accomplish something. So try a lot of different things.
Okay, before we wrap this up, let's thank our panel members for coming to our psychology panel. And we just ask that you please take a few minutes to fill out your evaluation and leave it on the back table. Feel free to come up and talk to the grads and help yourself to some refreshments. Thank you.
Sorry, one more thing. I work at an apartment complex in Sartell, and I'm about to graduate from grad school. And so they are looking for another person. So I don't know if you guys have cars on campus or if you're interested in a job. It is a really awesome job to have while you're in school. You'd be answering phones, giving showings, doing paperwork, and the people that I work for are awesome. And when it's slow, you can do homework. So I have little info sheets out back if you are interested in possibly finding a job there.
Yeah, there you go.